This is RJ. Tonight I will not be introducing Kevin at my boy Kev on Twitter because he is at something comic book related, maybe Comic Con. I'm really not sure, but he's really missing out because tonight we got a lot of shit to talk about. I was going to try and put it off, but it's just too much, and it's been a really fucking heavy week. So I really wanted to get this episode in tonight, given that it is my first solo episode, and I gotta tell you, it's kind of weird talking into a microphone in a room by yourself. Even the dog has now left me. I do not know where the studio dog is, which is kind of a bummer. But yeah, you just feel a little bit fucking crazy just in here rambling to yourself. But here we are, and we're going to get through it. First thing I definitely want to talk about tonight was Gary Johnson has been in the news recently. Not so much because of some other shit we're going to talk about tonight, but he's still been making it into the news. The most recent thing I saw about him that cracked me the fuck up was well, I'm gonna play the video of him being interviewed by, I think it's Casey Hunt. I'm just going to show the tweet. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see it. If not, watch us on YouTube so you can see it. We're live. Just watch for us on Twitter at 60 Grit Radio and at Bad Dinner Guest. So yeah, this is old Gare Bear here, and I want to get into this a little bit here. I might pause it. I might watch it through, and then I might watch it and pause it with y'all actually.
And do you think if you were able to get on the debate stage that you could pull even with Trump and Clinton in these polls?
I do. And it wouldn't have anything to do with my debate performance either. It would just be that people would recognize that there's another choice and that there would be an examination of me and Bill Weld as who we are and what we've done, and not based on that. I think I could stand up there for the whole debate and not say anything.
Just the audio listeners, he's now talking just his tongue in his mouth.
He really did that?
And I said I wasn't going to interrupt it there, and I did it anyway.
It's never happened.
Yeah, so that was him in an interview with Casey Hunt on a nice park bench. Maybe they had a nice picnic before. I'm not quite sure. But that is what Gary Johnson most recently had to offer the general public in, and as to what we're supposed to think of him. I don't know. Maybe he was just trying to be candid and kind of act not robotic like Hillary, and not so much like, I don't even know how to describe Trump at this exact moment, but try and just show that he's like a normal, funny guy. But he almost comes across as like an elementary school kid in the video if you watch it. Not so much in the audio, but like I said, he was basically just talking with his tongue like bit between his teeth. Kind of ridiculous. I don't know why he had to do that for it. But I want to show the clip again because he did have some stupid shit to say before he put his tongue in his mouth. And I wanted to have you guys listen to that and then maybe comment on it here.
Do you think if you were able to get on the debate stage that you could pull even with Trump and Clinton in these polls?
I do. And it wouldn't have anything to do with my debate performance either. It would.
Obviously. So he was basically saying, from the rip, I do, and it's only because I'm not either of them. And that is not the guy you want to lead your movement. Yet again, he's not you guys picked him. You know, I've been saying it for quite a while here, but you guys picked him. I didn't pick him. I don't know why. This is what you knew you would expect out of him. He wasn't a libertarian, and then when he gets the chance to maybe have a Ron Paul moment, he instead says, yeah, I think I stand a chance of overtaking these candidates because I'm not them. So yeah.
Just be that people would recognize that there's another choice and that there would be an examination of me and Bill Weld as who we are and what we've done, and not based on that. I think I could stand up.
And that's where he sticks his tongue in his mouth. Thank God. It's actually the best part of the clip, in my opinion. But actually, I'm going to rewind here a few seconds. But basically, he says that, and once I make the stage, that they might also vote for me because of me and Bill Weld, by looking into me. Again, he has an entire at least 20 seconds to probably closer to 30 seconds to give a fucking soundbite that actually is energetic, says something other than I'm not Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, vote for me. And if you want to do the research, go out and do it. Why don't you tell people about your ideas and what they can do for them instead of, hey, do some research. This is the research. Like, you have a 20-second soundbite. Take advantage of it. But again, that's something maybe an Austin Peterson could have gotten done. That's not something a Gary Johnson gets done. And they ran him because they thought he knew what he was doing, maybe, because he's more experienced. But, when a man with that much experience, we showed video clips of him getting shut down by Austin Peterson. I have audio clips of him getting shut down by bloggers. So, when with that track record out there, you think it should have worked against him, and I don't understand why they nominate him. Anybody the LP put up would be getting these interviews right now. Anybody. It's absolutely asinine that they put this man up. I'm not associated with the Libertarian Party, but they are associated with libertarians, so you're going to think of them when you think of me. I want anybody else out there representing me, even you know what I mean? It's just, it pisses me off. I don't know what else to say about it. But that's the most recent thing. Now, there was a USA Today article that just got published. If I'm not mistaken, it was today or yesterday. Probably yesterday. Either way, you're not listening in on either days. So this time he said another dumb but oddly, like, profoundly existential thing. He said this clear back in 2011. He said, in billions of years, the sun is going to actually grow and encompass the earth, right? So global warming is in our future. That he said that during a 2011 National Press Club luncheon event, according to the USA Today. The USA Today, that's right. So, you know what? I like this soundbite better than the one I just played, to be honest. It's ridiculous, but, like, there's an existentialist out there that's like, yeah, bro. Who is going even, yeah, bro, to the clip I just played? Fewer people. But obviously a ridiculous thing that as a politician you should know not to maybe say these things. But again, he has that track record of saying the stupid fucking shit. Why wasn't the LP looking into this prior? Or did they know about all this shit and they still put him forward? Because one of the reasons I think Trump's beating out Hillary here is because Trump doesn't have a political track record to follow him, whereas Hillary Clinton does. And that's hurting Hillary in a lot of ways. Well, here we can see it's not necessarily his track record working against him all the time, but here's just back in 2011 him saying some stupid shit. Does Austin Peterson have these kind of gaffes back there? Was there not a candidate that like had a backlog of non-stoner statements? And I proudly endorse marijuana. I'm not allowed to consume it right now, but proudly endorse it. Still don't want a fucking stoner to run the country acting like a stoner. You have to, at the end of the day, act like a guy that can run a country. And this is from somebody that is all really okay with weed and doesn't want anybody running the country. But right now, if you want a guy to take the limelight, people want a leader, not a fucking pothead. So if you can be a pothead and still be a leader, that's cool with me. Gary Johnson cannot do that. Look at him. Just fucking look at him. That's basically all I had to say about Gary Johnson this week. I like to touch on him a little bit here and there every week. Some more recent, like, heavy shit, I guess you could put it. The cop shootings. Well, the cops aren't the ones getting shot, obviously, here. But there's been 2 different shootings this week. One of them, the first one that I want to talk about, was Terrence Crutcher. His murder is on film. He's clearly got himself and his hands against the car. He's clearly not fighting. He's not brandishing a weapon. And the windows are up on the car. The reason I want to talk about this one first is because the evidence to me is a little bit clearer that this is straight up murder. Whether it's conceived or not, premeditated, that's the word. I can't say if it was premeditated or not. I would have to think not, seeing as the lady cop was on her way to a different call. I can't remember if it was looking for a warrant or something like that along those lines, or maybe it was a domestic violence something. I couldn't tell you. Either way. So this lady runs into this man, Terrence Crutcher, while he's walking to his car. So on her way to a different call. I don't think it was premeditated, but it was still definitely murder. I'm not going to show the video on here. generally, I don't like watching people get shot to death. I play video games. If you know, I don't think I could. I definitely could shoot somebody, but I don't think it could be in cold blood like what we see in these videos, and it grosses me out. Uh, it's just despicable to me to see such needless murder. And yeah, I watched the video, but I don't see any reason to rewatch it. You guys can find it out there. It's not hard, but you won't find it on here tonight. Especially because this man was completely innocent. So you're watching a man get shot to death that was on his way somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't part of a movement where this is what he wanted. He's not spreading any message with this, and the movements that have happened out of his death, I don't think he would want associated with. I would hope not. Maybe he would. Maybe he was ignorant. Maybe he wasn't. I don't know. We don't know because he was murdered. But so fast forward, he gets murdered. You see it on video from police video, and the officer's name was Shelby. And she has now been indicted, and I'm kind of glad we didn't do an episode Wednesday night because a lot less of this stuff had progressed. So I think we can get a clearer picture of what the police are doing about it now, instead of being so reactionary. But they have officially they issued a warrant for her arrest on murder charges. She was in the jail for, I think it was like 22 minutes or something like that. Don't quote me on that. Look it up for yourselves. But yeah, she wasn't in there long because she posted $50,000 in bond. That seems ridiculously low to me, A. B, if this woman isn't a suicide risk, she's a sociopath. And C, did she have the $50,000 in the bank to post, or are we going to later find out that the police officers union, and I hate to speculate this far out because we really don't know, but are we going to find out that the police officers union, as we often see, posted bail for this lady? I'm going to speculate and say maybe. It's hard to tell, but I would not be surprised. We see it happen time and time and again. And the disgusting thing is it's on video. How do you see somebody murder somebody in cold blood, see the facts that clearly, and still as a judge be like, you know what, we'll wait till the facts are in? Not, you are disgusting. You don't represent anything to do with us. You're waiting. Unless that's illegal. I frankly don't know. I'm not a lawyer. But to me, the bond should have definitely been higher. This lady does not deserve to be walking the streets. I don't think if the tables were turned, I don't think if that man would have murdered her in the same manner, even if he thought she was breaking into his home and it was on video, I don't think he would have gotten $50,000 bond. And that might be what people perceive as white privilege, but that's cop privilege, and that's what you guys are mistaken with here. This happened to be a white lady officer. The one we're going to get into later definitely wasn't. What pisses me off about this a little bit, outside of just the fact that the police aren't like, look, the facts speak for themselves here. She doesn't represent us. She broke protocol. You know, tell us everything that you represent that she didn't. Instead of that, you keep quiet. You slow things down. What pisses me off outside of that is they're trying to like spin this as he was on drugs. They say they found PCP in the car. The Guardian article that I read says that Shelby's lawyer, Scott Wood, said the officer had completed drug recognition expert training and felt Crutcher was under the influence of PCP. I'm going to stop right there. That's end quote. Officers can't tell if you're fucked up or not. I've seen them I've been accused of it when I'm clearly not, just because I laugh at everything. I could have passed the piss test on the spot. And then I've seen them let people go that they pulled over that I knew were clearly on drugs. I kind of wish those people were off the road. So their expert training is basically, these are the signs that you can use to arrest somebody. And it turns out that a lot of the symptoms of drug use happen to also be the symptoms of anxiety, maybe anxiety of being stopped by a person with a gun. Maybe you think you're going to be shot. Maybe you think you're going to be arrested. Maybe you think they're going to rip your car apart for no reason. There's a lot of reasons to be angry, shaky. Again, they said he was on PCP, so I'm going over some of the symptoms that I know happen with PCP. Um, maybe your eyes are dilated. Maybe your speech is, maybe you're stuttering like I'm doing right now. There's a lot of symptoms that go along with that, that they can then use as a symptom of drug use and arrest you or make you prove that you're not on drugs. This is a result of the war on drugs and how it's resulted in excuses for cops to murder people, and on top of that, excuses for people to hold people longer or arrest them until all the evidence is in. Um, Again, they're not experts on. Anyhow, back to the article. Felt Crutcher was under the influence of PCP. She felt like he had exhibited enough clues that he could have a gun in his pocket. Again, when he is shot, his hands are on the roof of the car, the windows are rolled up. Police Sergeant Dave Walker said investigators found a vial of PCP in Crutcher's vehicle. Attorneys for Crutcher's family have said even if there were drugs in the SUV, it would not justify the shooting. Obviously, I'm siding with the family there on that one. What you decide to put in your body does not mean you can be murdered at will, unless you live in a bunch of different countries, including our own. Also, who the fuck still does PCP? Like, did they also find some, like, Mickeys and Quaaludes in there? This to me, and I'm going to show a video later, but this to me screams police planning evidence. And again, I hate to be so Alex Jonesy, and it's funny because Kevin's not here. Normally he's the one to be more conspiracy-minded, I would think, but I've just... if it doesn't scream it to you, then maybe... I don't see how you can see this as anything but, unless we find out maybe you had a history of dealing and using PCP. It definitely feels like possibly that they planted it. I could be wrong. I don't know anybody that recreationally uses PCP. And then I certainly don't know why you would, while under the influence of drugs, seek out a police officer for your broken down vehicle. If your vehicle breaks down in the middle of the road, I'd seek out a tow truck and hope the police didn't arrive before the tow truck, personally. This man apparently sought out the police and then was either disobeying orders and walking back to his car with his hands up, or they told him to go back to his car with his hands up. Personally, I really don't know. I haven't seen that far back in the video. It doesn't matter. He didn't deserve to be murdered. Maybe he was afraid he was going to be shot. He knew the cameras that were there. He didn't want to be seen walking toward the police. He didn't want to be seen laying down, because when you lay down, you go to put your hands on the ground so you don't just fall face first, and that could have been perceived as looking like you had a gun. So he wanted to make sure it was clear and evident that he was in a position that everybody could see him. Maybe he was really smart, and maybe he still got murdered. I don't know. Again, I don't normally tell people to watch these videos, but everybody knows the video's out there. It's basically in mainstream news all the time right now. If you haven't seen the video, watch the video and tell me it's just fucking murder. And I don't know what you do about it. The other shooting, before I talk a little bit about what I think should be done about it, and I think where they're going wrong, they being Black Lives Matter. But the other shooting I want to talk about this second because it's not as clear what happened in this one. We haven't seen the video from the police. Now, this is the shooting that happened in Charlotte. It was Keith Lamont. It was Keith Lamont Scott, 43, middle-aged man. He was fatally shot. Police, when they shot him, they were out looking for someone else with a warrant, but they were in plain clothes. It was basically like a SWAT raid kind of deal, I guess. But yeah, they were a bunch of plainclothes officers out there looking for somebody else with a warrant out. Now, they will not say the person who they think was in the neighborhood with the warrant, but I'm going to tell you, he knows. Unless that neighborhood has like 16 different people out there with warrants out for their arrest that qualify them for plainclothes raids, I'm going to say that the guy that's in the neighborhood that they're looking for isn't in that neighborhood anymore. They could say his name. Maybe it would explain more. But I'm going to laugh my dick off if it's a white guy. Maybe that's why they won't say it. I didn't think about that until just now, but that's basically the only reason I can think of off the top of my head that they wouldn't release the video. is because they were actually looking for a white dude and just were like, hey, let's fuck with this dude. Maybe they didn't even find the guy with the warrant and they were pissed off about it. Again, them not telling us means we just can guess. So why don't you tell us? Why do you have to wait until you finish the investigation to give us the facts you know? How does that change the investigation on the death of a man surrounded by people who are going to give reports about this that we're supposed to trust to constantly be honest about the law? Where would their conflicting testimony be at unless you have to get everything in line, or unless you were looking for a white guy, or unless you were pissed off about a raid that went bad and you just decided to pick on this dude? Now, they apparently, according to the family, they come upon Keith while he's waiting in his car for his son. I guess he had a traumatic brain injury, and he couldn't be out in the sun for very long or something along those lines. It gave him headaches or something like that. So all the neighbors knew he always waited in his car for his son to get off the bus. It sounds like a pretty cool thing for a dad to do. And it pisses me off again because they're bringing up his criminal record, and I'm gonna show you that on the YouTube video, just to kind of show where there could be some disputes there. But yeah, the police were looking for somebody else. They happen upon Keith, who's in his car waiting for his son. Apparently, according to the daughter, who didn't witness the crime, the neighbors told her about it. But apparently he had a book in his hands. The police are saying that he got out of the car and refused to put down his gun, and that's why he got shot. But the daughter's claiming he had a book and that he was out there reading. Now, here's my question. They weren't looking for him. He didn't have a warrant out for his arrest. He wasn't known to be involved in any crime. As far as I can tell, they haven't even said they found drugs in his car. Possibly wrong about that. Either way, doesn't matter to me, but I don't recall reading that so far. Why would a man, days after seeing this unarmed man with his hands against a car, get murdered by police while his daughter's asleep inside of his house and his son's on his way home from school to meet him, get out of the car and greet the cops by brandishing a gun? I feel like everybody, and I'm going to quote Jason Stapleton here, I feel like everybody has self-preservation in mind. I think that's completely true. I think that's how the markets work, and I think that's how the real world works as well. And to me, nothing about that scenario adds up to me. Now, when you bring traumatic brain injury into the mix, maybe, I don't know. I've heard about, PTSD making people do crazy shit. So, yeah, it's hard to tell. There's been tumors that made people go out and murder people. That does bring it, maybe. But release the video. We have the video from the police chopper on the other one. They didn't wait till all the fact. They didn't even issue a warrant for her arrest before they put out that video. So, explain that to me. Anyhow, say he does have a gun. Say 3 or 4 men in black clothing come up to him. Say maybe he only sees the one out of his passenger side mirror because he doesn't see very well out of his other eye. I don't know. Say he only sees one of them either way with a gun, that telling him to get out of his car. Now, if you're an armed citizen in the United States, you have the right, in my opinion, to meet force with force, especially deadly force with deadly force. I don't think that you have any moral calling to, terrible choice of words, but I don't think you have the moral obligation to back down. I don't think that's a thing. And even if you worship the police and think, yeah, you should at least back down to the police and sort it out later, these men were in plain clothes. Say he didn't hear very well. Say he didn't hear him say police. I don't know that they were wearing police badges. Say he heard them say police and he'd been robbed before by somebody saying police. I've heard of that happening too. If you're in plain clothes, that's the risk you kind of take. Don't do it. Why? Why do you need that? It seems a little. It seems like you're asking for these kind of scenarios yet again. And then did they actually announce themselves? Did they tell him to drop the alleged weapon? If self-preservation didn't kick in, why don't you release the video? If this all happened and this man is as crazy as you're saying he is, why wouldn't you release the video immediately to shut everybody the fuck up? You have people rioting in your fucking city right now over this shit, and they're not in the right. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're in the right, but you have people rioting in your fucking city. If the video is the nail in the coffin you need to prove these officers were in the right, release it. And if it's not, what damage can it do? At this point, what fucking damage could it do to release this video? You already have riots happening in the street, and my thought is that they're afraid it's going to make these riots worse. I can't. Again, we saw the video of the lady cop shooting the guy just previously. We didn't see the video. We talked about it. That was released before she was even had charges pressed against her. What's stopping them in Charlotte? And I think it's that it's so fucking damning that they don't want to release it. That it'll make these riots worse or happen longer, they're afraid. Or, you know, if you're a conspiracy theorist, I'll say this one for Kevin because I was thinking about it a lot today. If you're a conspiracy theorist, they're waiting to release the video until the rioting dies down, and then they're going to release it to amp it right back up. And they're going to continue it, and then I don't know what happens after that, and that's why I don't really buy into that theory. But you could see martial law, which I think has already been announced in the city, continuing for further out, because I really don't know. This is why we need Kevin here, because again, I don't really I don't look into the conspiracy theory side of many things. I just kind of try and look at the facts, and well, maybe that leads me to some conspiracies. I don't know. So the family, I should say, has seen the video. They said you can't tell if there's anything in his hand. So far the family said it's unclear. They don't say it's obvious he had a book in his hand. They don't say it's obvious he had nothing. They're honestly sounding pretty reasonable about the video so far. They could have said his hands were up. They could have said a lot of things. But the police, to me, again, they sound like they're covering it up. Like, and then it comes, like, I can't help but ask myself, why we're paying these people? What right do they have to withhold this evidence from us until they deem fitting? Who gave them that authority and why? It doesn't make sense to me. And I get it, bootlickers. Okay, I really do. Police can do whatever they want. You should just obey them. The court system will sort it out later, and then you'll have to pay for it because that's how the court system works. You know, I wanted to bring up the drug convictions of the guy because the conservative and the cop media, they're portraying him as basically a career criminal. So I'm just gonna put his criminal record, and this was what sucks about producing and being on a show by yourself. It's kind of hard to pull up links and talk about them at the exact same time. But yeah, I wanted to definitely show this video, or show this article, I'm sorry. And then after this, I kind of want to show you what leads me to think they planted the PCP, and that maybe this guy didn't have a gun. Because a lot of times, you know, you hear police planted evidence, and if you look out there, you can see videos of police planting evidence. But I want to show you what happens when the police react to themselves planting evidence, and themselves being murderers, and it being blatantly clear. Yet again, but it's all on video. But yeah, right now I'm pulling up this man's criminal record because I wanted to talk about it. This stuff's important. The media's already bringing up his criminal record. If you sweep it aside and say it doesn't matter, you look silly. You look like you're again trying to change the subject, I guess, for lack of a better word, maybe because you're afraid of the subject matter. But again, I wanted to look at it because I don't think the subject matter is that scary with this guy, to be completely frank. But maybe I don't completely understand it. Also, websites, quit putting so many goddamn ads on your fucking news sites that I can't read a fucking article. When did pop-up ads come back? Seriously. They were gone for at least 3 or 4 years that I can remember, and then just boom, they're back. And they're fucking with my show tonight, which is really fucked up. Alrighty, so here's the previous charges. If you guys go to my YouTube, if you're listening to us on Stitcher right now, or SoundCloud. If you go to Bad Interguest on YouTube, you can find me under the Six Secret Radio tab. You can read this article either there, or you can read it at the Charlotte Observer if you can find it through their search. But yeah, his previous charges, a public records search shows that Scott was convicted in April 2004 of a misdemeanor assault with a deadly weapons charge. Other charges stemming from that date were dismissed. One of them was felony assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill, and misdemeanor assault on a child under 12, assault on a female, and communicating threats. Now, when they're getting clear down to communicating threats, that's an example of police throwing everything they can at you and hoping something sticks to me. Felony assault with a deadly weapon. To me, if you knew that was going to stick, why do you need to maybe keep the child under 12 in there? But regardless, assault on a female, like they're throwing the book at the dude. And he gets off on all of it, and he ends up with a deadly weapon charge. It was not a firearm either. And that's something that nobody's bringing up. Then in April 2015 in Gaston County Court, Scott was found guilty of driving while intoxicated. He got a DUI. I think almost half the people I know have a DUI right now. I don't have a DUI. Please don't drink and drive. It's probably one of the worst common drugs out there to drive on, in my opinion, alcohol. But at the end of the day, a lot of people, a lot of famous people, a lot of politicians have DUIs, but they throw it out all the time in the media about this guy right now, especially in the cop media and the extreme Republican media. In 1992, literally a year after I was born, Scott was charged in Charleston County, South Carolina, with several different crimes on different dates, including carrying concealed weapon, not a gun, simple assault, and contributing to a delinquency of a minor. He pleaded guilty on all charges. So they offered him a deal, if I had to guess, and they told him, hey, man, if you don't cop this deal, we're throwing the fucking book at you. And he copped to it. That's what that looks like to me, just as somebody that's known people that have been involved in the legal system. So contributing to the delinquency of a minor, maybe he was with a 17-year-old smoking cigarettes. Maybe it was a 15-year-old smoking cigarettes. I don't know. Either way, is it really that big of a deal? It's don't buy kids cigarettes. I'm not saying that. But is that really how you're going to mark a man to be murdered? The carrying concealed weapon, not a gun. Probably just a knife with too long of a blade, if I had to guess. Again, throwing the book at the dude, hoping something sticks. But he pleaded guilty to all those charges. I don't know that says a whole lot yet again. Scott was also charged with aggravated assault in 1992 and assault with intent to kill in 1995. Both charges were reduced, but the dispositions of the case is unclear. Wonder if that was a lot of he said, she said. Back then there wasn't cell phones. It's, again, why even bring it up? If it's unclear, why bring it up? Apparently in 2005, he was sentenced to 15 months in state jail for evading arrest. In July of that year, records show he was sentenced to 7 years in prison on a conviction of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. A Texas Department of Criminal Justice spokesman said Scott completed his sentence and was released from prison in 2011. So he was in prison for roughly 6 years. Again, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. This time it doesn't say if it was a gun. But this was in Texas on a man with a prior record of assault. God only knows if they were trumped up. But again, they include non-convictions on the record. And then all of these times that police throw every charge at them they can, hoping they stick. Well, every judge from there on out looks at those and considers them in sentencing them. So I would definitely like to look a little more into what exactly went down that got him put in prison for 6 years. But that's no joke. And he was fleeing the police. It is worth noting. I think I forgot to note that. Pretty important. He was fleeing the police when he was shot. He was hit by the guy. The police officer that was pursuing him basically said before ordering him to be hit by a car, his car to be hit by a car, that he was going to kill the guy. That is clearly on the tape that you can listen to on model websites if you care to. He then hits the car. Side bag curtains deploy. he pulls up the side bag curtain and fires into the car 4 or 5 shots, killing the suspect. Um, Again, street justice. You know, that's not what the justice system is supposed to be about. And it's funny, like, this, it starts to look like a crime wave to me, because there's 2 other videos floating around right now that you can go out there and watch that are of basically young girls being maced in the backs of police cars or off of bicycles. Maced and tased, I should say. One of them I don't think was maced, but... And then you have these 2 murders. Like, when police see a crime wave starting, like, if people start dying of heroin, they are out on the streets looking everywhere. Like, if a cop gets murdered, like, they are looking everywhere. Like, and that's always been their approach to this drug war that has been the result of most of the crime that you're seeing here now. Look at the charges they're bringing against both dead men. I don't know. They took a nip it in the bud approach to the drug war for the fear of public safety. You know, I'm not saying the rioters are doing the right thing, but you want to talk about fearing for public safety. Every time you kill somebody right now, I have to worry about what happens in my neighborhood. And granted, nobody is doing anything here in Columbus, but when you look across the country, there's a lot of people out there that have to pay for the shit you do. And I know that's not okay, and I am not saying it's okay. We're going to get into that here in a minute. But, you know, the public's held accountable, and then when you're in the wrong, the public has to pay for the shit you did too. Like, we're both getting fucked. And you would think, I tweeted it earlier this week, but you would think every fucking police station in the country right now would be saying, you're being videotaped, we can't afford another one, please God, no. Don't be too brutal out there today. Don't murder anybody unless you have to. Okay, guys, please. Like, and if they're not, then they're buying so hard into this war, they're going out looking for it. And that's what it's starting to look like to me when you keep seeing this shit. And where do we nip that in the bud? You know, when shit goes down and the police want to take this approach to fixing things quickly because they see them getting out of hand rapidly, they make examples out of the criminals. You know, they show that justice will be served, that this isn't acceptable, this isn't what society is going to tolerate. But when cops fuck up, they keep it quiet. It's reserve all judgment till it's closed. They withhold evidence for as long as they can. And then when it's closed and all the facts are in and it shows the cop is clearly guilty, they say it's not representative of their culture. And that's despite video. You know, I want to show you this video here of a shooting that happened in 2011, and the case just popped up in the news again because I think the man was either sentenced or something moved forward with the case. I can't really recall, but that doesn't matter so much to me as, you know, the outrage that we're not hearing about it. So I'm going to start pretty late into this video. Again, I'm not going to show the man get murdered. But this is not video of either the Charleston shooting or the other one we talked about. Alrighty, so again, producing your own show makes life difficult. So they have just hit the car and killed the man. Stockley is the officer's name in this video. I should probably give a little bit of background on what this video is. So this is 2 men in a parking lot. God, there's been so many fucking cop shootings this week. It's hard to keep them straight. So this here is a guy that was police saw him sell drugs in a parking lot. He evaded the police. They are in a car chase, and you hear one officer say that he's going to shoot him. During the chase, they then hit the car, and then this is directly after they hit the car where the video starts. So you're going to see just after they open up the airbag and shoot into the car. Now the officer has walked to the car once already and looked into it. And what you see on the video here coming up is you're going to see the officer that actually shot the man, that also said he was going to murder the man, walk back to his SUV, and he puts away a rifle that he wasn't authorized to have. It was an AK-47 because he wanted to be Rambo. He then gets in the very back of the cruiser and, knowing where the camera is, leans to where you cannot see what he's doing in the bag, and is in the bag for, I'm gonna count, probably, wow. He is in that duffel bag, and he doesn't have anything in his hands when he goes to the duffel bag, but he's in this duffel bag for a good, almost full minute, if not longer, with the his hands out of view and the duffel bag out of view. And he didn't come to the duffel bag with anything, and he leaves the duffel bag with nothing. What we later find out is that only his DNA and fingerprints are found on a gun he claims the suspect had, that being the reason he shot him. And again, this guy did run from the cops, and there's a lot of bootlickers out there that are going to be like, don't run from the cops and this won't happen. I didn't realize that we lived in a country where if you ran from the police, they were allowed to murder you and then plant evidence. But they won't say that. Instead, they say what the bootlickers say. Don't run from the police. People will be like, he got what he deserved. If he deserved it, delve it out in a court of law if you ever think that this deserves it, which I'm going to argue with you till the end of the day that he does not deserve that for any drug-related crime or evading the police because of a drug-related, quote, crime. The riots, though. And again, we'll wait for the riots. This video here is exactly my issue with the two stories I told you about earlier. This video here is exactly why I can't trust the police to do their jobs correctly and not murder innocent people or even criminals. Like, you're not hired hitmen. You're there to protect the law. It used to be you were there for justice, but they had to change it to where you were there to protect the law, so they could make it cover more. Because there is no justice in a victimless crime. One could say this man died of a victimless crime. Evading the police from a victimless crime. I'll even say, at the end of the day, morally, this dude had every right to fire on those other men that were chasing him for selling a drug to a person that was buying the drug willingly. He had every right to fire on those men. If you remove all the bullshit, it was men chasing men for doing something they didn't really like. It wasn't hurting him, wasn't hurting them. The guy wasn't being forced to buy it, and now this dude's dead. And the response from the population's been rioting, but no riots like what I would hope for in my perfect anarchist revolution. It's what we're seeing. It's more like if the Palestinians bomb themselves every time the Israelis illegally annex a territory, or I guess killed or arrested one of them illegally. If their response to any time that happened was just to start destroying their own industries, blowing up their own people, like, you, with this Black Lives Movement, are self-segregating yourselves, and you're attacking the wrong people, and it's fucking ignorant. And by attacking the wrong people, I'm not saying blow up police stations, but maybe, just maybe, target the people that are perpetuating the violence. You should take it directly up with them rather than attacking people that are in no way related to the crime. And I will say it looks like both of these murders were crimes. All three of the murders that we talked about tonight were crimes. But you don't want to reinforce everybody else's idea that they deserved it, or that they need all of these police and all of these police interactions. And all you're doing right now is showing that there's people out there with no fucking moral compass that they should be afraid of living amongst them. And you want them to then integrate you with them. And this is the people out there that see an us and them. I try not to be an us or them, except for the people in power, the people without power. But for the Black Lives, White Lives people out there, this is not the way you win people over, you retarded motherfuckers. You don't tear up police cars on the street. Well, maybe. You don't rip apart semi-trailers on the interstate and catch things on fire. You don't loot stores. Why aren't you looting police stations or the governor's mansion? Or anything that is related to the law and order system that you are protesting against, instead of inviting more police interactions that the public see as necessary and often justified. Maybe you would get a little sympathy. And I'm not saying for me, I'm not saying that's the path you take. I'm not saying go out there and murder and burn down and pillage police officers and politicians. But maybe go sit on their front lawn. I don't know. Do what you got to do. But quit the race baiting. And maybe somebody in Black Lives Matter or somebody start yelling Black Lives Matter and then actually fucking direct this movement. Like, you guys are the ISIS of political movements right now. You're the guys yelling Muhammad Akbar and then attacking innocent civilians to try and get the general public to leave you alone and think that you don't need to be watched. I'm not saying that you ever should have been in the position to have to earn the respect of the general public. I'm not saying you should have ever been put in the position where you have been over-policed to the extent where everybody in your neighborhood has a criminal record and nobody's done anything to hurt anybody. I'm not saying that's okay. But what I'm saying is you don't prove that to the general population by then acting aimlessly and ignorantly violent toward the general population. Because I got to tell you, if you do this to me, it's going to be really hard for me to still even like partially back you. If this was my business, as a person that sides with you, that's white, that would love to see a movement out there take root and lift all of these neighborhoods out of being over-policed and poverty, get them out of the drug war, I would, all of that shit. But you don't know if I was that truck driver. You don't know if I was one of those business owners. But say they were on the fence. Say they had saw some shit in the news and they were like, man, these cops are really acting up. Like, we can't deal with this anymore. And then they flip the channel and they see you catching cargo on fire on the interstate. They're like, oh, maybe actually this dude was a criminal. Maybe since these people are representative of him, this dude was actually deserved what he got. You're dishonoring his memory, and then you're pissing off the people that you're trying to get on your side. It's I don't know. It's really upsetting to me. This is going to be kind of a short episode tonight, but I wanted to kind of comment a little bit on some shit that went down on the Facebooks. But yeah, I posted a meme, and you guys should definitely follow. I reblogged a meme from Liberty Hangout, so if you somehow find my show before their blog, congratulations on taking that weird path. But yeah, go check out Liberty Hangout's blog. But I'm just going to, you know what, I'll just put my Facebook up here on the big screen. Dead air. I am so sorry, guys. I'm terrible about that. But yeah, so you can see the little thing on my Facebook here. It says those damn redcoats just shot 5 innocent colonists in Boston. It's the founding fathers. Let's go rob the blacksmiths, burn down the farmers market, and overturn horses and carriages. I thought it was pretty funny. Basically, same thing I was saying. Like, it's like the Palestinians, if they would react that way toward the Israelis, and some say they might. And that's, again, I did say they were the ISIS of political movements. And I hate to blast somebody's name on here. I am so sorry, sir. But, you know what? My profile is public, so they can see it anyway. He says that it hurts the white businesses in their neighborhood, where most of the time they're profiled as soon as they walk in. Don't treat me fair? Fuck your store. I'll drive 15 minutes to the next town to get what I need, but yours comes down. He goes on to say, you see, most of the time there's not a damn thing owned in the hood by a black person, so it isn't hurting their pockets. I fully understand not every store owner does it, but if you know your buddy does it and you don't speak up, you're just as guilty. I'm assuming he's talking about treating them unfairly when they enter the store. If you see me get treated unfair and say or do nothing, when shit starts to hit the fan for you, I'm not going to stop a damn soul from going at your store. I can ask all day long, please don't stop, please stop, don't treat me like that. Get to know me as a human being, please, before you stereotype and profile me. But goddamn, we've been asking that for decades. This country has never respected our wants for total equality, just ignored it. This is where we are at. I'm tired of asking. Um, you know, that's I feel like that's the sentiment of a lot of Black Lives Matter, and that's why I pulled this up. And I do apologize for putting your name clean out there for those that'll see it. But again, public. My profile's public. So first of all, that hurts white businesses in their neighborhood, where most of the time they're profiled as soon as they walk in. So he's saying that these kids are mad at the businesses for profiling them, and that's why they're attacking these businesses. This is that pent-up rage that they've had against the businesses. So apparently they've been in these stores that they frequent so often, often enough to be profiled, but not often enough to get to know the shopkeep, I guess. This is them reacting to that when they get their chance, that basically because they were treated unfairly, they have the right to tear apart his store. And to me, the reason that man may or may not be giving that look to those kids is because he knows when shit hits the fan, when some shit he had nothing to do with happens, those are the first kids that are probably going to be in his store tearing shit apart because they have no fucking moral compass. Like, if what philosophy says if something happens 20 miles away from here, I have the right to tear apart your store because you looked at me funny, because you questioned why I was in your store. Now, I get it. Maybe there's not a lot of stores in your neighborhood, and it sucks that you have to go to one that you're profiled at. I would say save your money and go to a store that doesn't profile you. Try and get to know the local shopkeep. I live in a large city. Most of the shopkeeps around here live near their businesses. So a lot of these shopkeeps see you at night. They see you in their store. They know you whether you know them or not around here. But most of them are pretty cool to me. Maybe that's my white privilege, but most of them are foreign as fuck. A lot of them are Somalian. A lot of them are Arab. Not a lot of them are white dudes that are racist. Most of their clientele is young black men. A lot of their items in the store cater to that target market. I don't know. I get maybe you're in a small town. I could see it being a little different there. I don't remember the last small town riots, and one of the reasons why is because a lot of these store owners live pretty close to their businesses, like I was saying, and are well armed. That might be why. And if you look at the LA riots, if I'm not mistaken, it was Korean shopkeepers on the roofs of their businesses protecting them with rifles. Again, these people lived above the stores. That not to tear apart you, sir, but the philosophy's just fucked. It's totally backward. You don't get the right to just attack strangers because other strangers were attacked. You have the right to stand up for your own rights. Don't get me wrong, but you don't have the right to aggress. I guess it violates the NAP. That's why I'm against it at the end of the day. It's also absolutely ridiculous. And then was that shopkeep the one keeping these men down? You said this country has never respected our wants for total equality, just ignored it. Are these shopkeeps the ones that are carrying the guns out there and arresting you? Are these shopkeeps the ones that have given a large portion of your demographic criminal records over some bullshit? Are these shopkeeps the ones that started the drug war that locked more of you up than any other legislation ever? No. Nope. You know who pays for that shit, though? Them. You know who doesn't have a choice but to pay for that shit because of the same jackbooted thugs with the guns that are locking you guys up? Them. See, the police, they're fucking leeches. And they can leech off the businesses by taxing them. You, however, don't have money. Well, not that much. And it's a lot harder to tax you for yours. So instead they fine you and they ticket you and they make sure you stay in their system and they can keep leeching off you as well. And it's fed from both ends. But what you do when you do this fucking stupid shit like burning cargo in the middle of the interstate or breaking windows out of stores and stealing VCRs because oppression, you you sell the divide for them. They don't even have to sell the public on it anymore. There's fucking live video of people you are defending, and that's why I'm equating them to you. I'm not saying you would do this. I would hope not. But if you defend these people, I put you on the same level as them. If you can defend their morality, then I would have to think that you agree with it on some level. And it's barbaric, for lack of a better word. It's so backward. It's so fucking eye for an eye, but not. It's eye for my neighbor 4 doors down that doesn't know either of us as you just can't rationalize the logic behind it, and I can't. And then, a lot of people were pissed off about that meme because they were saying that, the Boston Tea Party, they threw that tea off, they destroyed property. You're leaving out, and you guys are going to see that all over the blogs about probably 4 to 5 times a year when you bring up the Boston Tea Party or anything to do with the revolution or anything like that. Somebody out there is going to say that and show how they destroyed public property. It's not the first time I've ever seen that come up. But that was the Queen's property on the Queen's ships. That was them attacking the people that they were against. That's how you have a revolution, if you're going to do it violently, is you attack the enemy. Because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So if part of the population sees you as an enemy because you are wantonly attacking them when you're attacked by somebody else, they're going to see you as the enemy, and they're going to side with the people that originally attacked you. It's how it works. That's not how you defend it. But say the newspapers were publishing articles of them killing a bunch of black people in the street, and on the media there was video of you guys getting maced while sitting, like what happened on the Occupy Wall Street movements. How is the media going to be able to spin that? Tell me. How does the media get to spin that to make you guys look like criminals and thugs? Or, the media has not always been too friendly to the United States when they, in foreign countries, have perpetuated violence against native populations or in invasions over their ideas about markets. Maybe if you were fighting them back, just like the forces that were fighting against the United States, maybe you might still get some positive press for it. Maybe you'll find a couple sympathizers. Maybe a couple people be like, yeah, they killed us first. Hey, I wouldn't have shot them, but they were shooting at me first. This just is not the way to win us over. Us being everybody that doesn't. How should I put it? It's not the way to win over everybody that doesn't identify with Black Lives Matter. And maybe you don't give a fuck about that, but I gotta tell you should. Because the way you guys are doing it, you're gonna just see dollars flowing in to protect those same businesses and those same people. You're gonna see people that were on the fence be convinced that they need defended from you. And that's basically all I got to say about that. I can't believe we've managed to fill an hour somehow. I do want to apologize. This episode was a little bit funky. I'm not used to doing it by myself, but I think it went pretty all right. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments on YouTube. Go to @60grit on Twitter, and if you have any questions, if you have something you want to talk about, hit me up on there. If there's something you want me to talk about on here, hit me up on there. You can also find us at baddinnerguest.blogspot.com. We got some pretty sweet short stories up there. And then this weekend, the reason Kevin actually isn't here is because it's been a comic book takeover weekend, I guess. So our live blog and YouTube right now are just covered with everything comic book related. So if you are a fan of freedom and comic books, definitely check out the Bad Dinner Guest YouTube channel. I would definitely appreciate it, guys. Catch you next week.